30 seconds. That's how long Sandra Anderson looked away. 30 seconds to finish a sentence with a neighbor outside Covenant Grace Church. 30 seconds while Easter bells rang across Atlanta. 30 seconds while her daughter, 8-year-old Lily, white dress with yellow flowers, chocolate bunny clutched in small hands, stood 15 feet away on the church lawn. When Sandra turned back, Lily was gone. No scream. No running footsteps. No car peeling out of the parking lot. Just absence. A space where a child had been laughing moments before, now empty. As if the earth had opened up and swallowed her whole. It was 11:20 a.m., April 12, 1998. Broad daylight. Dozens of families milling around. Parents chatting. Children playing tag. The smell of fresh-cut grass and Sunday perfume hanging in the warm Georgia air. And in those 30 seconds, while Sandra's back was turned, while the congregation celebrated resurrection and renewal, someone took Lily Anderson. Here's what will haunt you: someone saw it happen. Someone watched a stranger lead that little girl away, watched them get into a car, watched them drive off into oblivion. And that someone said nothing. For 21 years. This is the story of a vanishing that should never have remained a mystery. A silence that condemned a child. And a confession that came 2 decades too late. Who was watching? And why didn't they speak? Before we dive deeper into what happened to Lily Anderson, I need to ask you something. If you're watching this video right now, whether you're in the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, or anywhere else in the world, please take just a moment. Hit that subscribe button below. It helps us continue telling these stories, giving voices to victims who deserve to be remembered. And drop a comment telling me, where are you watching from? What cases do you want us to cover next? Your engagement keeps these investigations alive. It keeps Lily's memory alive. Thank you. Now, let's talk about who Lily was before she became a headline. Lily Marie Anderson was born on a cold January morning in 1990 in Atlanta, Georgia. By all accounts, she was a child made of sunlight, the kind of kid who laughed easily, who made friends on playgrounds within minutes, who saw magic in ordinary things. She had blonde hair that her mother, Sandra, would braid every Sunday morning before church. She had a gap between her front teeth that made her smile look mischievous and sweet at the same time. She was obsessed with The Little Mermaid. She had a pet rabbit named Clover that she'd rescued from a neighbor's yard. She wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up. Sandra Anderson raised Lily alone. She was a nurse at Grady Memorial Hospital, working brutal double shifts to keep their small East Atlanta apartment afloat. Money was tight. Time was tighter. But Sandra never missed a Sunday at Covenant Grace Baptist Church. Never. It was their anchor, their community, their safe place in a chaotic world. Covenant Grace wasn't a megachurch. It was mid-sized, family-oriented, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone's name. Pastor Glenn Whitmore had led the congregation for over a decade, a soft-spoken man in his late 40s, gentle demeanor, known for his thoughtful sermons and steady presence. He'd baptized Lily when she was 6. She'd sung in the children's choir under his watch. The church was more than a building to Sandra and Lily. It was family. And Easter? Easter was Lily's favorite holiday. She loved the pastel dresses, the choir performances, the sense of joy that filled the sanctuary. But most of all, she loved the Easter egg hunt Covenant Grace held every year on the church lawn after service. Dozens of brightly colored eggs hidden in the grass and one golden egg that held a special prize. In the week leading up to Easter Sunday 1998, Lily talked about nothing else. She had a strategy. She'd mapped out the lawn in her head, identified the best hiding spots from previous years. She was going to find that golden egg this time. Sandra remembers her daughter's excitement, the way Lily had barely slept the night before, the way she'd bounced around their apartment that morning while Sandra tried to fix her hair. When they arrived at Covenant Grace that Sunday morning, Lily wore a white cotton dress with yellow flowers stitched along the hem. Sandra had bought it on sale at a thrift store. Lily thought it made her look like Belle from Beauty and the Beast. She carried a chocolate bunny someone from the church had given her the week before, saving it for after the egg hunt. She was 8 years old. She was happy. She was safe, surrounded by her church family. And then she wasn't. Let's reconstruct what happened. Minute by minute. Because the precision of this timeline is what makes Lily's disappearance so chilling and so inexplicable. 10:45 a.m., Easter Sunday service concludes. The final hymn, Christ the Lord is risen today, echoes through the sanctuary. Families begin filing out. Sandra holds Lily's hand as they exit through the main doors. Pastor Whitmore stands at the entrance, shaking hands, greeting congregants. He smiles at Lily, wishes her luck in the egg hunt. She beams back at him. 10:52 a.m. Sandra and Lily reach the front steps of the church. The parking lot and lawn are filling with people. Parents chatting, children already running wild. Sandra stops to talk to a friend, Margaret, about an upcoming church potluck. Lily tugs on her mother's hand, asks if she can go play with the other kids. Sandra glances at the lawn. It's maybe 15 feet away, wide open, dozens of adults scattered around. She nods. Stay where I can see you. Lily skips off toward a group of children near the oak tree on the east side of the property. 11:03 a.m. Lily is playing tag with 3 other kids, 2 girls and a boy, all around her age. Parents are everywhere, standing in clusters, leaning against cars, watching their children. The egg hunt hasn't started yet. It's scheduled for 11:30, after everyone's had a chance to socialize. Sandra is still talking to Margaret, but she keeps glancing over at Lily every minute or so. She can see her daughter's white and yellow dress moving in the sunlight. 11:17 a.m. Sandra finishes her conversation with Margaret. She looks toward the oak tree. Lily is still there, laughing, chasing another girl across the grass. Sandra feels that familiar swell of gratitude, this community, this safety, this simple Sunday joy. She starts to walk toward Lily, but another parent, David, stops her. He has a question about the church fundraiser Sandra's helping organize. It'll only take a second. Sandra pauses. Lily is right there. 15 feet away. Visible. Surrounded by people. Sure, Sandra says to David. What's up? 11:19 a.m. Sandra is mid-conversation. She glances over her shoulder toward the oak tree. Lily is still playing. Still safe. Still there. 11:20 a.m. Sandra finishes talking to David, turns back toward the lawn. Lily is gone. At first, Sandra isn't alarmed. Maybe Lily wandered toward the playground behind the church. Maybe she went to the bathroom. Sandra scans the area, the parking lot, the far side of the lawn, the church entrance. No white and yellow dress. No blonde braids. She calls out, Lily? No answer. 11:22 a.m. Sandra starts moving faster, her voice louder. Lily? Lily? Other parents notice her panic, start looking around. Margaret joins the search. Then David. Then more. 11:25 a.m. A dozen adults are combing the church property. They check the playground, the bathrooms, the Sunday school rooms, the sanctuary. They call Lily's name over and over. The children stop playing, confused and frightened by the adults' frantic energy. 11:32 a.m. Someone dials 911. 11:47 a.m. The first police cruiser arrives at Covenant Grace Church. By then, Lily Anderson has been gone for 27 minutes. She will not be seen again for 21 years. When Atlanta Police Department officers arrived at Covenant Grace Church just before noon on April 12, 1998, they found controlled chaos. Parents were searching every corner of the property. Children were crying. Sandra Anderson was on her knees in the parking lot, sobbing, hyperventilating, barely coherent. The responding officers immediately radioed for backup. This wasn't a child who'd wandered off. This was an abduction. Detective Marcus Hale arrived within 20 minutes. He was a 15-year veteran of APD's Criminal Investigations Division, a father of 2 daughters himself, ages 7 and 9. The moment he saw Sandra's face, something tightened in his chest. He knew the statistics. If a child isn't found within the first 24 hours of an abduction, the likelihood of finding them alive drops to almost zero. The clock was already ticking. Hale took command immediately. Officers cordoned off the church grounds, treating it as a potential crime scene. They began interviewing witnesses, every single person who'd been present that morning. Over 200 congregants. Parents, children, church staff, Pastor Whitmore. Everyone. The problem was simple and maddening. Too many people, too much chaos, too many conflicting accounts. Some parents remembered seeing Lily playing near the oak tree around 11:15. Others thought they'd seen her closer to the parking lot. One woman, Eleanor, swore she saw a blue sedan pull out of the lot quickly around 11:20, but she hadn't thought anything of it at the time. People leave church parking lots all the time. She didn't get a license plate. Didn't see who was driving. Couldn't even confirm the make or model. Another man, Thomas, mentioned seeing a woman he didn't recognize talking to children near the playground. But he couldn't describe her. Average height maybe? I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention. No one saw Lily get into a car. No one saw her leave the property. No one saw a struggle, heard a scream, noticed anything unusual. It was as if she'd evaporated. K-9 units arrived by 1 p.m. The dogs picked up Lily's scent near the oak tree, followed it toward the parking lot, and then lost it. Gone. As if she'd been lifted into the air. By 2 p.m., an Amber Alert was issued across Georgia. Lily's face, her school photo from that fall, gap-toothed smile, blonde braids, was broadcast on every local news station. Her description was specific: 8 years old, 4 feet tall, 60 pounds, wearing a white dress with yellow flowers, last seen at Covenant Grace Baptist Church in East Atlanta. Roadblocks went up on I-85 and I-20. Officers stopped cars, checked trunks, asked drivers if they'd seen anything. Helicopters scanned nearby parks and wooded areas. Volunteers combed the neighborhood surrounding the church, knocking on doors, searching yards and sheds. Nothing. Detective Hale interviewed Sandra extensively. She was a wreck, but she answered every question. No, Lily hadn't mentioned being scared of anyone. No, there were no custody disputes. Lily's father had left before she was born, never been in the picture. No, Sandra didn't have enemies. She was a nurse. She went to church. She lived quietly. Who would take her daughter? And why? By midnight, Hale knew they were in trouble. 24 hours was slipping away and they had nothing. No witnesses. No suspects. No leads. Just a missing little girl in a white dress, and a mother who couldn't stop screaming her name. Within 48 hours of Lily's disappearance, her face was everywhere. Flyers were stapled to every telephone pole in East Atlanta. Her photo appeared on the front page of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Local news stations ran segments every evening: interviews with Sandra, appeals from Detective Hale, footage of search parties combing through wooded areas near the church. Covenant Grace Baptist Church became the epicenter of the search effort. Pastor Whitmore organized daily prayer vigils. Hundreds of volunteers, congregants, neighbors, strangers showed up to help. They searched parks, abandoned buildings, riverbanks, industrial areas. They handed out flyers at gas stations, grocery stores, shopping malls. They plastered Lily's face across every inch of the city. Sandra appeared on television, her voice shaking, eyes red and swollen. "Please," she begged into the camera. "If you have her, if you know anything, please. She's just a baby. She's my whole world. Please bring her home." The city grieved with her. Atlanta in the spring of 1998 was gripped by collective fear and heartbreak. Parents stopped letting their children play outside unsupervised. Playgrounds sat empty. Schools sent home letters about stranger danger. Churches across the metro area held prayer services for Lily's safe return. Strangers left teddy bears and flowers outside Covenant Grace Church. But beneath the solidarity, something darker festered: suspicion. If Lily had been taken from a church of all places, then nowhere was safe. And if no one saw her leave, then maybe the person who took her was someone they knew. Someone in the congregation. Whispers started. Gossip spread like wildfire. Some people pointed fingers at Sandra's ex-boyfriend, a man she'd dated briefly 2 years earlier. Police investigated him immediately. He had an airtight alibi. He'd been in Alabama that weekend visiting family. Dozens of witnesses confirmed it. Others whispered about the church janitor, a quiet man in his 50s with a prior arrest for public indecency in the 1980s. Detectives interviewed him extensively. He'd been at home alone that Sunday, no alibi. But there was no evidence tying him to Lily. No connection. And ultimately nothing. The church community began to fracture under the weight of paranoia. Attendance at Sunday services dropped. People eyed each other warily. Who could be trusted? Pastor Whitmore tried to hold the congregation together. He preached about faith, unity, hope. He reminded them that they were a family. But even he seemed shaken, his sermons shorter, his voice strained. Sandra attended every service, sitting alone in the front pew, staring at the empty space where Lily used to sit beside her in the children's section. The searches continued for weeks, then months. But slowly, inevitably, the news cameras left. The volunteers dwindled. The city moved on. Everyone except Sandra. She couldn't move on. She was trapped in that moment, 11:20 a.m. April 12, 1998, forever turning around to find her daughter gone. Detective Marcus Hale couldn't let go. For 2 years he worked Lily Anderson's case obsessively, long after the official task force was disbanded, long after his captain told him to move on. He kept her file on his desk at home. Photos of Lily pinned to a corkboard in his garage office. Witness statements highlighted and re-highlighted. Timelines reconstructed over and over. His wife, Karen, watched him unravel. He stopped sleeping. He'd sit up at 3 a.m. staring at crime scene photos, replaying interviews in his head. He'd wake from nightmares where he saw his own daughters vanish into thin air. Hale became convinced someone at that church knew something. There were too many people present for no one to have seen anything. Someone saw Lily leave. Someone saw her get into a car. Someone knew. They just weren't talking. But who? He re-interviewed dozens of witnesses. Went through their statements line by line, looking for inconsistencies, gaps, lies. He found nothing. Everyone's story checked out. Everyone had been cleared. He chased every tip that came in, no matter how thin. A psychic called in 1999, claimed she'd had a vision of Lily buried near a river. Hale spent 3 days searching riverbanks. Found nothing. A supposed sighting in Tennessee, a girl matching Lily's description at a truck stop. Hale drove 5 hours, interviewed the witness. It wasn't her. A convicted child predator in Alabama claimed he had information, wanted a plea deal in exchange. Hale interrogated him for hours. The man was lying, fishing for a reduced sentence. Every lead turned to dust. The frustration ate at Hale. He'd never failed to solve a case before, not like this. Not a child. But Lily Anderson's disappearance had no physical evidence. No blood. No clothing. No signs of struggle. No body. It was as if she'd been erased from existence. The only solid piece of information they had was Eleanor's vague recollection of a blue sedan leaving the parking lot around the time Lily vanished. But that wasn't enough. Thousands of blue sedans in Atlanta. No plate number. No description of the driver. Hale kept circling back to one interview, Pastor Glenn Whitmore. Whitmore's statement, taken on the day of the disappearance, was brief. Almost perfunctory. He'd been standing at the church entrance, greeting people as they left. He didn't see anything unusual. Didn't notice Lily leaving. Didn't see any strangers. He'd voluntarily taken a polygraph test a week later. Passed it. He had no criminal record. No red flags. He was a beloved pastor, respected in the community, grieving alongside everyone else. But something about the statement nagged at Hale. It was too clean. Too detached. Still, there was no reason to push. No evidence. No motive. And Hale had dozens of other potential leads to chase, all of which went nowhere. By 2000, the case was officially cold. Hale was reassigned to other investigations. He boxed up Lily's file, placed it in a storage unit with other unsolved cases and tried, unsuccessfully, to forget. But some cases don't let you go. They haunt you. They wait. And 19 years later, that file would be pulled back out. The worst part of a cold case isn't the silence. It's the hope. Over the next 2 decades, Sandra Anderson experienced hope more times than any mother should have to. And every single time, it shattered her a little more. 1999. A girl matching Lily's description was spotted at a trailer park in Pensacola, Florida. A gas station attendant called it in, blonde hair, about 9 years old, seemed scared. Sandra flew down the next day, heart hammering in her chest, barely able to breathe. Police located the girl. It wasn't Lily. Just another lost child in another broken situation. 2003. A convicted child abductor sitting in an Alabama prison claimed he knew where Lily Anderson was buried. He said he'd tell investigators in exchange for a reduced sentence. Detectives interviewed him for days. Sandra waited by the phone, sick with dread and desperate hope. The man was lying, trying to manipulate the system, playing games for attention. 2007. Skeletal remains of a child were discovered in a shallow grave in a Georgia forest, about 60 miles outside Atlanta. The age and size matched Lily. DNA testing took 3 agonizing weeks. Sandra couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, existed in a nightmare limbo between hope and despair. The results came back. The remains belonged to a boy who'd been missing since 1995. 2011. A woman on Facebook posted a viral message claiming she was Lily Anderson, that she'd been kidnapped as a child and raised under a false identity, and she was now searching for her biological mother. Sandra saw the post, collapsed. Could it be? After 13 years, could Lily have survived? Could she have been out there this whole time? The story spread across social media. News outlets picked it up. Sandra agreed to meet the woman. DNA testing was arranged. The woman was a con artist, fabricating the story for attention. Each false lead broke Sandra in ways that are hard to articulate. Every time hope flickered to life, it burned brighter and hotter, until it was extinguished, leaving her in deeper darkness than before. She aged rapidly. Her hair went gray. She lost weight. She developed chronic insomnia. Friends and therapists urged her to move on, to accept that Lily was gone. But how do you accept what you don't know? There was no body. No closure. No answers. Just an empty space where her daughter used to be. Sandra never moved from their apartment in East Atlanta. She kept Lily's bedroom exactly as it had been in 1998. Toys on the shelves, posters on the walls, the white dress with yellow flowers hanging in the closet in a sealed plastic bag. Every year on Lily's birthday, Sandra baked a cake and lit candles alone. Every Easter she attended the memorial service at Covenant Grace Church, attendance dwindling each year, and sat in the front pew alone, listening to Pastor Whitmore offer prayers for Lily's soul. She never knew that the man standing at the pulpit held the answer she'd been searching for all along. March 14, 2019. 21 years after Lily Anderson vanished. A phone call came into Atlanta Police Department's cold case unit. The caller identified himself as Pastor Glenn Whitmore, age 68, former pastor of Covenant Grace Baptist Church. He said he had information about the Lily Anderson case. The detective who answered the call froze. She contacted Marcus Hale immediately. Hale was retired, living in suburban Atlanta, spending his days trying, and failing, not to think about the cases he'd never solved. When he got the call about Whitmore, his blood went cold. Within an hour, Hale was driving to Whitmore's home in Marietta. The house was modest, quiet, surrounded by tall pines. Hale knocked. The door opened. Glenn Whitmore looked like a ghost. He was gaunt, hollow-eyed, his skin sallow. An oxygen tank stood beside him, tubes running to his nose. He was dying, terminal pancreatic cancer, diagnosed 6 months earlier. "Thank you for coming," Whitmore said, his voice weak. They sat in the living room. Hale set up a recording device. His hands were shaking. "Tell me," Hale said. Whitmore took a breath, closed his eyes and began. Easter Sunday, 1998. 11:17 a.m. Whitmore was standing at the church entrance, greeting congregants as they left. He saw Lily Anderson on the lawn, playing with other children near the oak tree. Then he saw a woman approach her. She was white, mid-30s, average height and build, dark hair, wearing a floral dress, something that blended in with the Easter crowd. She knelt down in front of Lily, said something. Lily smiled, nodded. The woman took Lily's hand. They walked together toward the parking lot. Whitmore watched them. He assumed the woman was a relative, an aunt, a family friend, someone picking Lily up for Sandra. It didn't seem unusual. People came and went from the church all the time. The woman and Lily got into a car, a blue sedan parked near the back of the lot, and they drove away. Whitmore saw the whole thing. He watched Lily Anderson leave. Hale's jaw clenched. His voice came out low, dangerous. "Why didn't you say anything?" Whitmore's eyes filled with tears. His voice cracked. "I didn't know she was missing. Not right away. I kept greeting people. It wasn't until later, when the police arrived, when everyone was searching, that I realized something was wrong. And by then..." He paused, struggling. "By then I panicked. I thought if I say I saw her leave, they'll blame me. They'll say I should have stopped her. They'll say it's my fault. I was the pastor. I was supposed to protect the children. If I admitted I watched her walk away, they'd destroy me. The church would be destroyed. My reputation." His voice broke. "I convinced myself someone else must have seen it. Someone else would come forward. Days went by. No one did. I thought maybe Lily had just run away. Maybe she was fine. But deep down I knew. And I stayed silent." He looked at Hale, tears streaming down his face. "I've lived with it every day for 21 years. The guilt has eaten me alive. I'm dying, detective. I'm about to meet God. And I can't go without telling the truth." Hale sat there, fists clenched, staring at this broken man. 21 years. A mother's entire life destroyed. A child dead and buried somewhere unknown. Because a man was afraid of judgment. "Describe the woman," Hale said, voice shaking with controlled fury. "Everything you remember." Whitmore did. Hale wrote it all down. It wasn't much. But it was more than they'd ever had. And it was enough to restart the hunt. Detective Sarah Ortiz was assigned to reopen the Lily Anderson case in April 2019. She was 34, sharp, methodical, a rising star in APD's cold case unit. Marcus Hale agreed to consult pro bono. He needed to see this through. Using Whitmore's description, forensic artists created a composite sketch of the woman, both as she would have looked in 1998 and an age-progressed version showing what she might look like now in 2019. The sketch was released to media outlets across Georgia. Tips flooded in. Most were dead ends, people who vaguely resembled the sketch but had no connection to the case. But one tip stood out. An Atlanta woman named Karen Davis called. She said the sketch looked like someone she'd known in the late 1990s, a woman named Rebecca Harmon. Becca had attended Covenant Grace Church sporadically in 1997 and early 1998. Quiet, kept to herself. Then she'd stopped coming. Karen hadn't thought about her in years, until she saw the sketch on the news. Ortiz and Hale pulled Becca Harmon's records. She was now 56 years old. No criminal history. She'd worked as a retail clerk and later a house cleaner. In 1998 she'd lived in Atlanta. But after April of that year her life became erratic. She moved frequently, changed jobs often, isolated herself. In 2001 she'd been briefly hospitalized for severe depression and suicidal ideation. Ortiz dug deeper. And then she found it. April 9, 1998. 3 days before Easter. Rebecca Harmon's 9-year-old daughter, Emily, died in a car accident. Head-on collision on I-75. Emily was killed instantly. The timeline clicked. Becca's daughter dies 3 days before Easter. Becca, shattered by grief, attends Easter service at Covenant Grace, desperate for solace, for God, for something. And there, on the church lawn, she sees Lily Anderson. Blonde hair. Bright smile. White dress. Laughing. Alive. Did Becca, in a moment of psychotic break, see Emily? Did she convince herself her daughter had come back? Did she take Lily intending to replace the child she'd lost? Ortiz obtained warrants. She and Hale traveled to North Carolina, where Becca now lived in a trailer outside a small town called Waynesville. The trailer was isolated, run down, surrounded by overgrown weeds. They knocked. A woman answered, gaunt, sunken eyes, graying hair. She looked at their badges. And her face crumpled. "I knew you'd come eventually," she whispered. Inside they found a bedroom that made their blood run cold. Pink walls. Stuffed animals. A small bed covered in a faded Barbie comforter. And on the dresser a photo. A little girl. White dress with yellow flowers. Blonde braids. Smiling. Lily Anderson. Becca Harmon sat at her kitchen table, hands trembling, and said 5 words that confirmed everything. "I thought she was Emily," Becca Harmon confessed. She sat across from Detectives Ortiz and Hale in a North Carolina interrogation room, and she told them everything. Her voice was flat, emotionless, as if she were recounting someone else's story. Easter Sunday, 1998. Becca had been drowning in grief. Emily, her only child, her entire world, had been ripped away 3 days earlier. The funeral had been that Saturday. Becca was shattered, barely functional, clinging to any shred of hope or meaning. She went to Covenant Grace Church on Easter Sunday because she didn't know what else to do. She needed God to explain why her daughter was dead. She needed something. She sat through the service in a fog. Afterward, she walked outside into the bright sunlight. Families everywhere. Children laughing. And then she saw Lily. Blonde hair. Bright smile. That white dress. Becca's mind fractured. She saw Emily. She knew on some distant rational level that it wasn't Emily. But the grief, the desperation, the psychotic break, it all collided. In that moment she convinced herself that God had answered her prayers. That Emily had been returned to her. She approached Lily. Knelt down. Told her she was a friend of her mother's, that Sandra had asked her to take Lily somewhere for a little while. Lily, trusting and kind, believed her. Becca led Lily to her car, a blue sedan parked at the back of the lot, and they drove away. No one stopped them. No one questioned them. Except Pastor Whitmore. He'd watched. And said nothing. Becca drove Lily to a remote cabin she'd rented in the North Georgia mountains, a place she'd planned to scatter Emily's ashes. It was isolated, surrounded by dense woods. She kept Lily there. For 3 days. She called her Emily. Dressed her in Emily's clothes. Read her Emily's favorite books. Tried to make her smile. But Lily was terrified. She cried constantly. She begged to go home. She didn't understand. Becca kept trying to soothe her, to convince her, and herself, that everything was okay. That they were together again. That this was how it was supposed to be. But Lily wouldn't stop crying. On the 3rd night, April 15, 1998, Lily tried to run. She waited until Becca was asleep, snuck out the cabin door and bolted into the woods. Becca woke, heard the door slam, panicked. She chased after her. It was dark. The terrain was rough. Lily was running fast, desperate. She tripped. Fell. Hit her head on a rock near a creek. Becca found her lying face down in the water, motionless. She pulled Lily out. Tried to wake her. Shook her. Screamed her name, both Lily's name and Emily's. But Lily Anderson was dead. Becca carried her body back to the cabin, wrapped her in a blanket, and buried her in the woods behind the property. Then she left. Never returned. Moved away. Tried to forget. But she never could. She ended her confession with this. I didn't mean to kill her. I just wanted my daughter back. I just wanted Emily back. Ortiz and Hale sat in silence. What do you say to that? Detectives returned to the cabin Becca described. It took 2 days to locate, long abandoned deep in the Chattahoochee National Forest. They excavated the area behind the property. On April 3, 2019, they found skeletal remains. Small. Child-sized. DNA testing confirmed it. Lily Marie Anderson. Sandra received the call on April 9, 21 years and 1 day after her daughter was taken. She collapsed. Detectives watched as she sobbed, screamed, pounded the floor with her fists. When she finally calmed enough to speak, she asked one question. Why didn't anyone see her leave? They told her about Pastor Whitmore. Sandra's grief turned to rage. She drove to the hospice facility where Whitmore was dying. She stormed into his room, detectives trailing behind her. Whitmore was barely conscious, hooked to machines, days from death. Sandra stood over him, tears streaming down her face, voice shaking with fury. You watched her leave. You watched her walk away with a stranger and you said nothing. You could have saved her. You could have stopped it. Whitmore's eyes opened. He looked at her. I'm sorry, he whispered. Sorry? Sandra's voice cracked. Sorry doesn't bring her back. Sorry doesn't give me 21 years back. You let me suffer because you were scared. You were a coward. She leaned closer. I hope you rot in hell. She walked out. Never looked back. Glenn Whitmore died 11 days later. He left a note apologizing to Sandra Anderson. She burned it without reading it. Lily Anderson's funeral was held on April 27, 2019. 21 years too late. A small casket was buried in Oakland Cemetery. Sandra finally had a place to visit. She knelt at the grave for hours, whispering, I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. The Covenant Grace Church community was shattered. Many members left, unable to reconcile Whitmore's silence. The church closed its doors in 2020. Detective Marcus Hale attended the funeral, standing apart, weeping quietly. He blamed himself for not pushing harder, for not seeing what was in front of him. Sarah Ortiz stood beside him. She said nothing. Some grief has no words. Rebecca Harmon pleaded guilty to kidnapping and involuntary manslaughter. She was sentenced to 15 years in prison, reduced due to her documented mental health issues at the time of the crime. Some said it was too lenient. Sandra didn't attend the sentencing. She said no punishment would bring Lily back. Becca Harmon is currently incarcerated in North Carolina. She writes letters to Sandra, letters Sandra never opens. Years later, Sandra gave one final interview. I got my answer. I know where she is now. But knowing doesn't heal anything. Just ends the waiting. And I've been waiting so long, I don't know how to stop. She still visits Lily's grave every Sunday. She still keeps Lily's room untouched. She still celebrates her daughter's birthday alone. Some wounds don't close. They just become part of you. What do we owe each other? That's the question Lily Anderson's case forces us to confront. Pastor Glenn Whitmore saw something. He watched a stranger lead a child away. And he stayed silent, not because he was evil but because he was afraid. Afraid of judgment. Afraid of blame. Afraid of what speaking up might cost him. That silence cost Sandra Anderson 21 years of agony. It cost Lily Anderson her life. How many other cases are out there like this? How many missing children, unsolved murders, unspoken truths, because someone was afraid to say what they saw? We live in a world where people film crimes on their phones instead of intervening. Where witnesses stay quiet because they don't want to get involved. Where silence is easier than courage. But silence has a price. Becca Harmon's grief was real. Her psychotic break was real. She was a mother destroyed by unbearable loss. And in her shattered mind, she thought she was reclaiming her daughter. But that doesn't erase what she did. It doesn't bring Lily back. And Glenn Whitmore's fear was human. Understandable even. But it was also unforgivable. Because in that moment, standing at the church door watching Lily walk away, he had a choice. Speak up or stay silent. He chose silence. And a little girl died because of it. Lily Marie Anderson was 8 years old. She loved chocolate bunnies and the Little Mermaid. She wanted to find the golden Easter egg. She wanted to be a veterinarian. She wanted to grow up. She never got the chance. But her story, and the devastating, unforgivable silence that surrounded it, deserves to be remembered. So we don't forget. So we speak up when it matters. So no other mother has to wait 21 years for the truth. Lily Marie Anderson, January 8, 1990 to April 15, 1998. Rest in peace. This story moved you, please share it. And if you have information about any unsolved case, no matter how small, no matter how scared you are, speak. Someone is waiting.